Right, welcome to season 2, episode 10 of the Me and ADHD podcast. Today's episode is all about social media content creator Fran. Now, Fran's profile and content is all about his own adult ADHD and sobriety journey. And for me, his posts are amongst the best out there. With thought-provoking storylines and words of wisdom, each one so powerfully presented, it's like listening to a sermon being preached, designed to motivate, stimulate, and fill you with positivity whilst giving you a hard-hitting reality check, delivered courtesy from a smack in the face by a wet fish. You probably don't know Fran by his actual name, but you may know him on TikTok and YouTube as HeadNooks. So take a look and listen at this.
How long are you going to keep pretending that you've got your ADHD shit together when we're falling apart inside? You know what I'm on about, that constant battle in your head. You know what you should be doing, but you just can't make yourself do it. And why? Because our brains don't fucking work like that. And society, well, they're never going to understand. Dark thoughts creeping in, hating yourself, overthinking every little thing. Yeah, I thought so. And what do? We say we're fine. We're not fine. We're fucking drowning. Our minds are in overdrive 24/7. We're ready to jump out of a moving car just to make it stop, but we don't. We keep going. And why? Because that's what men do. Right? Wrong. That's what broken men do. Men who've been told to man up, to sort it out, to keep quiet. And where's it got us? Nowhere fucking good. We stay up all night trying to fix problems. We swallow our pride. We try not to build resentment and we take it out on ourselves. And for what? To be told that we're not fucking good enough? We're sabotaging ourselves. We're so busy trying to keep everyone else happy that we've forgotten about our own happiness. And it's killing us. It's time to stop. Stop pretending. Stop suffering in silence. Stop thinking you can handle it all on your own. You need help. We all do, and there's no shame in that. The real shame is knowing that you need the help and you're not getting it. Don't wait for somebody to notice that you're drowning, because they won't. You need to speak up now, today, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because if you don't, you're going to keep on struggling. Keep hating yourself, keep pretending you're fine when you're falling apart. Is that what you really want? To live half a life, to never reach your potential because you're too busy fighting your own mind? Make the right decision.
Thank you for the introduction.
That's okay. I tell you what, it took me ages to write that. I keep on going over and over it again. I have to have everything written in front of me because I can't remember anything.
I'm the same. I use it's rare that I tend to go off on tangents. If I start speaking about something, the ADHD brain will then spark something else, and I'll completely lose track of the original thought process and just go for the tangent. So I have to have it either in front of me or on a teleprompter or something like that. So to make life easy.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. So, tell us about like life before your diagnosis. What was that like for you?
So life for me before, it was pretty manic. I mean, from a young age, I'd always struggled with, I dare say, boredom more than anything. I never liked to really sit still. I never liked to, what I class as, do constructive things like reading and educate myself like that.
Yeah.
I always had a love and a passion for sports and for socializing and being out and doing, things that, what I've since learned, certainly from a drinking perspective, would mask what was actually going on inside. And, it, from a young age, I mean, from like 15 is really when I started drinking and going out and socializing. And to me, that was part and parcel of life. I'd always, like I said, I always want to keep busy. I always want to be doing something because my brain never really switches off. And to try and keep that in check, I'd have to be doing something to either use as some form of release, be it sport, or if the stresses were becoming too much, I would lean on the drinking and drug use as well to try quieten the brain a little bit. So, it was how, what I classed as undiagnosed, or what I can look back now and say that's how undiagnosed ADHD life was for me, really.
All right. Okay. So when did you kind of like start to notice or think, okay, there's something else going on here? I need to like start looking at things and why things are how they are.
I've always questioned why I did things differently. I never adhered to the norms of, let's say, society, for instance, and I always had to do things my way, which tended to be the hard way, or learn from my mistakes, so to speak. And part of that was that always raised questions with me myself, and I never could pinpoint the reason why. When I was really young, I think when I was about 9 or 10, I was tested for dyslexia because I think it was one of the parents at school said, "Well, how come he's so well spoken and quite well educated, and but obviously it doesn't show this in his exam results and things like that." And I think my
Yeah.
mum and dad took it on board at the time and thought, well, is it down to dyslexia? And I got tested for that, and I wasn't. But ADHD wasn't a thing back then, and it was kind of, well, he's not dyslexic, so he is who he is. And for me, the actual start of the ADHD journey came from the algorithm, really, on YouTube more than anything. And it was very similar time to when I was looking to go sober. So we'd just come out of lockdown, or it was kind of during lockdown, when drinking for me was what used to be. It used to be binge drinking, like the weekend kind of
Yeah.
sessions, if you know what I mean. But they became more of a daily occurrence. And with drink, for me, went hand in hand with drugs. So with cocaine, and that was my go-to. And that was becoming more and more, and it was taking me into a deeper and darker place that I didn't really know how to get out of. We'd come out of lockdown and it carried on. It's not like it stopped automatically. And personally found lockdown incredibly hard. I mean, it was great fun at the beginning. That first summer, we'd just moved house, and we're outside in the garden and drinking gin and tonics and having barbecues, and it was quite pleasant. But that then changed because every day became a drinking day. And as a result of all this, I was looking to find a way to go sober. And I think my brother had texted me some famous people that had looked or that had gone sober. And I obviously then started looking on YouTube, which for me is a great source of information. And it aligns with my style of understanding and learning, basically via video, because that's how I kind of relate to things. And I think the algorithm picked up on things quicker than I did, and it started firing me videos about ADHD. And I didn't know much about ADHD. I'd heard of it, but I was, understanding or my understanding of ADHD back then was similar to what the stigma shows us now. It's the naughty boy syndrome, or
Yeah.
naughty girl syndrome at school, whatever it might be. And that was my kind of basic knowledge of it. But these videos kept coming up. I was like, oh my God, that's me. That's me. I can relate to that. Oh, wow. And it started to give me some answers. So long story short, decided to do a stint in rehab. I booked myself in, and it was something that I thought I needed to do at the time, because I thought it'd give me the help that I needed to try and break free of the drink and the drug use. And it came about from the first conversation with the psychiatrist that I had in there. And whilst I was in there, I was still watching numerous videos, and it was just becoming more and more apparent that I had ADHD. So I spoke to the psychiatrist, and she wanted to ask me questions. But my first question to her was, look, you're a psychiatrist. Do you think I've got ADHD? I don't think I align to addiction per se. I don't use it for the highs. I use it because it calms my brain and it gives me a bit of peace and quiet. And yeah, she said, well, I'm not specialized in this. However, do some online tests, come back, we'll have a chat in a couple of days, and tell me what you found. And I did. And it came back that I'm highly likely. And that's which kind of started the process for me. So I did 2 weeks, 2 weeks staying in rehab, and then I came out, and it was one of the first calls I made was to clinical partners to go privately and get some proper answers, really.
Oh, right. Okay. So that happened really quickly. It was a big waiting list, or
Well, there was, I think, for obviously the NHS waiting list. So it'll be 4 years in, I think, was it May time? I think I actually got the diagnosis through. There was a waiting list via the NHS, but I have zero patience.
yeah,
That's just one of my big ADHD symptoms right there. And I was in a position where I could obviously go privately, and I wanted the answers quickly, because everything started, like I said, started to make sense, and I wanted that validation. I needed that confirmation for myself. The waiting lists at the time were about 6 weeks with clinical partners, and that was great. I think obviously now it's quite a bit more, because of the awareness has grown, and it's gone
yeah.
from strength to strength on social media and everywhere else. So yeah, it was interesting times.
How did you find the assessment? How did that go for you? I
Well,
was absolutely it messed with my head doing the assessment and things.
I mean, the hardest thing, or the most ridiculous thing I find, is that they send you out a massive, huge questionnaire that you've got to sit and go through. And I mean, it's like it's a test, because you have to. We'll put it off to the last minute naturally, or we just don't want to do it, because it involves us having to sit down and focus for a period of time on something that we don't really want to be doing.
Yeah,
Um, and I found that quite difficult. That was the hardest part for me. And then obviously I had to go to my family to get the more information from the past, from childhood and things like that. The actual assessment was done online, because again, we'd just come out of COVID, so everything was done online at the time.
yeah.
And I didn't find that too bad. I mean, that went on for about 2 hours, but it gave me an answer at the end of it. He literally said to me, he said, you've got combined ADHD, and to which I kind of already knew, but it was nice to get that sense of, validation from,
Yeah.
and then it all, everything started to kind of click into place a little bit from there.
It's quite funny as you mentioned the forms you fill in. It's like for people just to try and work out if they have an issue with focusing and memory and patience and things like that. Here's this massive list. I want you to go through this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really ADHD friendly at all.
No, and not at all. And I don't know how that part of the assessment could be changed, because they obviously they need that information. And to be fair, when you have the assessment, he went through each question with me anyway.
Yeah,
Why they couldn't just go straight to that part. Or like I said, is it part of the test? Somebody who flies through it with no problem and gets it sent back to them the same day, chances are they might be neurotypical. I don't know. I haven't got
yeah,
a
that's a
clue
fair
about
point.
that. But in reality, anybody that I've spoke to, when that questionnaire comes, everyone just looks at it and just goes, "Have I really got to go through that? It's like 30 pages long. I don't think I can do it." And you've just got to try and break it down and do so many questions per day or per week or whatever it might be to help you get to the end of it, really.
No, absolutely. I mean, I can remember that the report that I got at the end was 22 pages,
Yeah.
and
Did
it
you
it
read
took me it took me 8 months to get through it. I just like,
I
yeah,
saw
I get.
the beginning part of saying that, confirm you've got combined ADHD, and that was enough. I didn't read too much into it after that. I thought, well, that's enough for me. At least I know
Yeah,
now.
this is it. Yeah, I've got the answer. I don't need to read all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's just
That's it.
so with the diagnosis. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people and listened to a lot of stuff online, and I know a lot of people go through kind of like this denial thing or this grieving from the past and things like that at all. And I know I didn't have that. I went straight into this euphoric bubble of happiness, and I'm still there. It's just over a year later. Well, I'm so glad that I've got the answers to the past. My
Yeah,
life makes sense to me. I know why all these things happened and why I struggled. I'm still holding on to that. I don't know whether I'll go into this whole kind of grieving sort of side of it or not, but I'm not there yet. I mean, did you find that?
Yeah, I felt like I did go through a bit of a process, whether it was after the actual diagnosis or the build up to it as well, because of I did the typical hyper focus thing where I just chucked myself deep into it and wanted to learn about it because everything that I kept watching and picking up on explained more about myself. And it was nice to finally get those answers. And have to say that there wasn't frustration there, of what could have been, missed opportunities, relationship issues, arguments, all these kind of things did come, to the forefront at the time because if I'd known about this earlier, then yes, I think things would have been different. But in reality, hindsight's a great commodity. It's something that it'd be brilliant to to put to use. But we're looking back in the past. We only, we made decisions at the time with the tools that we had available at that time.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I could make kind of peace with the past. And that was the beauty of it for me is once I'd got that validation, that confirmation, I went through that process of piecing together and trying to, make sense of it and it allowed me to actually put it to bed a little bit. There's still things that are there that still hurt and that I've probably not dealt with up to now, but I will get there in time, I'm sure. But yeah, there was definitely a process of the stages of grief, and you know, the thing is with this, everybody's different. Like you say, you felt quite euphoric after it, and still do, which is perfectly great. It's fine to feel that way, but everybody has got their own journey,
Yeah.
and we can't. Some people will still be in a dark place as a result of it. Some people, like yourself, will feel great about it. Everybody's entitled to how they feel. We can't change that. We can only be there to support them and try and understand what the process is that they're going through.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things I've learned, I guess, doing all the research as we do,
Yeah,
is that it's kind of like you get assessed for the main criteria of ADHD, but most people are not struggling with those main criteria. It's everything else that comes with it, be it the depression, the anxiety, the RSD, the sleepless nights, you know going from job to job, partner to partner, and all the rest kind of thing. It's all
yeah.
that which is the huge issues, and and that's never really sort of talked about when you get assessed and everything. But it's kind of like you've got everyone's kind of got the symptoms. They're all there, but the biggest thing that affects it is I guess your surroundings.
Yeah, yeah.
you know so if you've got supportive friends, that does help. If you've got lots of friends who are not supportive, that then creates exacerbates issues. If you haven't got supportive family, if your work is massively stressful, if you run a company, it's massively stressful, that's going to exacerbate. If you're you know what I mean. So there's so many things that are out there that can make things a lot worse, for a lot of people, and I know I'm lucky, so
Well, that's good. There's huge variables to all this that will play a factor in, you know, your your journey and your journey of self-discovery or your journey post ADHD diagnosis. And again, th- this is where I struggle at times because some people just want to be, well, this is how you've got to feel. Well, no, it isn't at all. You have got to feel how you feel. You've got to process this. You've got to understand your ADHD as much as possible, then accept it, how it impacts your life and how it impacts your family's life or friends' life and things like that. At the end of the day, you've got to try and make sense of it the best you can for yourself. And I think that's vital. And as you'll see from content that people put out all the time, it will be a range of things that, yes, you're hitting the black and white kind of characteristics of ADHD, but then some other people put out things that they're actually really feeling at that moment in time. And for me, both are correct, because they're expressing their feelings on both sides of the fence there. So I just think there's got to be a lot more understanding when it comes to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's a daily battle. It's a real battle. Even when you think you know as much as you can learn about it, you're still battling every day to try and exist, really. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
No, yeah. It's nice to do the research. It's nice to have the knowledge now and things make sense and all that, but it doesn't get rid of the daily battles you have. Yeah, your reality is your reality. But the knowledge helps you to put strategies in place and things like that and understand what's going on. It doesn't take it away though, so.
No,
So what, when it comes to it then, what do you think your top 3 worst, hardest hitting sort of traits are?
So I struggle massively with overthinking. So I overthink everything. I find myself going into deep, I'll go quiet, for instance, for a period of time, and people around me know that if I have gone quiet, something's really on my mind, and I have to try and make sense of it in my head. Whatever this may be, whether it be relationship issues, whether it be business issues. And a lot of the time, like pre-diagnosis and sobriety, I'd go to the pub and I'd probably drink away that kind of stress, because it'd allow me to break free from that busyness that's going on, that overthinking. But obviously when you're sober, you have to deal with these kind of emotions when they're raw, and you have to try and find a solution to them, yourself, without trying to self-medicate or whatever it might be. So that's a big one for me. Impulsive behavior, impulsive purchasing, impulsive whatever it might be, that's, I personally think that goes hand in hand with ADHD. It makes me laugh when I speak to people, how we go off on little projects, or we want to something that will have sparked our interest, and we then have to buy everything that's involved with that then project, and we hyper focus on it for a period of time until we've got to where we want to with it. We don't get any sense of accomplishment when we've completed it or anything like that, and then we just move on to the next thing. That's a huge problem that I've always had to deal with. And then I think self-medication again was another big problem with ADHD, or masking, which again goes hand in hand. We constantly put on this mask and try to fit in with what's normal, because we're too afraid to be our authentic selves, or we've been kind of, I won't say brainwashed into being different people, but to fit into what society is, we have to try and put on some form of mask. And to deal with those kind of things as well comes with what it leads to is like self-medication as well, to try and, just push it all to one side, which again are all very difficult traits of ADHD. But I know there's lots of things like RSD as well, which plays its part. But yeah, I'd say that they're my kind of top 3 that I struggle with personally.
Cool.
What about yourself?
I think my top one is going to be my focus. I can't focus. I mean, I'm on medication, and that definitely helps. It allows me to read a book now. Never read a book until I got on the medication. So it does allow me to, but there's so many things that can override that if there's too much noise, too much stuff going on. So focus. I mean, even now, even through my podcast, I drift off and come back again. I drift off, come back again, and and I'm like, I need to apologize, but at the same time, we're both ADHD. We know,
Exactly.
and you're probably doing it as well. So it's like it's okay. Okay, we're both doing it. Um, so it's
You
like,
find that when you're reading, though, this is what I think I struggle with. A certain word in a sentence will then trigger a thought process in my brain. I'll go off on that tangent in my brain, yet my eyes will still be reading the text. I'll get 2 more pages in and think, no, I ain't got a clue what I've just read. Do
yeah,
you find that as well, or?
yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why I don't read, often never sort of read beforehand, because there's really no point. And sometimes it could be as bad as just one or two words, and then I get onto the third one, but I've already gone on a trip somewhere,
Yeah,
come back, and when I say the third word, it doesn't make sense because I can't remember the first two words. So I've had to go back over again. And
yeah.
it's like our son's autistic ADHD, and before we kind of like knew that, I was trying to do some research about it all and how to support and everything, because we didn't know anything. And I did a little online course on awareness of mental health problems.
Mhm.
And you're meant to do like an hour of reading every night, for over like a few weeks, and you have a little test at the end, kind of thing. It was 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day I had to do it because I just couldn't get an hour's not enough. That an hour was a paragraph. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Not knowledge wise,
Yeah,
but because I would normally stop and
yeah,
walk away. But I had to push myself because it's about, I have to do this for my son. That's the only thing that kept me going. But it was like it was mental torture,
mhm,
absolutely mental torture to keep on trying hard to focus. So that's the one that's messed up my education and jobs as well to a degree. But then you've got so like RSD is my second one, and that rules my life.
right.
Absolutely rules my life. It's better now I know what it is. I tried to explain it to my wife before I got diagnosed and everything, which you if you're talking about big things, like if you get an absolute kicking from your boss at work kind of thing, okay, you're going to get upset, and you take it a lot harder than the average person would. But it's the small things that I find even now impossible.
Right.
I've said this before in my podcast, like, if I go to work and I smile at someone who normally smiles back and they don't smile,
Yeah.
bang, it is literally, that's ruined my day now. I've obviously upset them. I don't know what it is. I've upset them. They hate me. I'm rubbish. I'm a rubbish person. I hate, crap at my job,
Yeah.
and it all just spirals,
Yeah.
and it's just like, I just don't need this. But now I know I can, it doesn't stop it. It happens. But I've got this little person on my shoulder going, it's not real. It's not real, you know? So it kind of like helps me come back out of it a lot quicker than it used to,
Yeah.
you know?
No, that
And,
makes sense.
and then sort of being overwhelmed, I think it is sensory overload. I'm still working on exactly what's going on, but there's a lot of times I get really, really overwhelmed. Um, be it at work. That's happened so many times at work, and it's one of the reasons why I stopped, because too much stuff to do. I can't keep on top of it, and it's just, and all this stuff I should be able to do. Um, and at home as well, certain things, noises, people talking. Oh man, alive! If we're out somewhere going for a walk together, and we're going out for a 3 hour walk, and you constantly talk,
Yeah.
it's too much. I'm gonna want to throw you in the river or something. I need. It's like, I can only explain that my head is constantly seeking for quiet, for silence, and I just need it all the time, and it's so hard. I go around with headphones now, where I
Yeah.
never used to. Like my son, he'll verbally stim and things like that, and I'm like, gotta put them on.
Yeah.
So they're the main three things that kill me. But like you said, there's lots of other things as well.
There are, and I think all of them, it's hard to pick the top three really, because they all play a massive part in our lives. And I'm with you with the overwhelm and noise as well. It's, you know, like things like misophonia send me absolute cuckoo when somebody's eating loudly next to me. It's, you know, that clearly runs in our family, because I remember my granddad saying, you know, if you're going to eat that apple, you best go and bugger off down the bottom end of the garden and eat it, kind of thing. But that runs through our family like Blackpool Rock. So I find myself constantly saying to my daughter, you know, close your mouth when you're eating, close your mouth when you're eating. And then if you've got kids playing as well, or you're watching something or trying to do something, and then there's kids and there's noise, or the dog's barking, or you just, I'm like, whoa, I can't handle this. I'm just sensory overload for me. But I think they all do. They affect us all, and it's hard to. It's really hard to find a solution for them. I mean, earphones, obviously, a lot of people use them in loop. Are they called loop earphones? Not actually music, they
Oh,
just dim the noise a little bit.
yeah.
But I'm yet to find something that fits the bill for me, because I just find myself getting agitated when it happens, and I'm just like, I just need to be out of the room. I'll just go and sit somewhere else where it's quiet. You just turn into a grumpy old man. I think that's what I'm going to be.
Well, no, well, that's it. I've always been just like you said. I've always internalized everything. I'm predominantly inattentive,
Mhm.
and everything's internal. But for some reason, you know, sort of in the last sort of 10 years and having a child and everything like that, I just can't internalize it. It's just external. It's like showing my frustration
Yeah,
all the time, and I'm just. That's one of the reasons why I got assessed, because I don't know what's going on here. I can't keep it in. I can't deal with what's going on, but I don't know what's going on.
yeah. You
Um,
found it escalated more as you've got older, then, as or
I would say, yeah,
can you remember
yeah.
it much, or just haven't found a way to deal with it when you were younger, or
My my younger days were I was out a lot, sporty, active,
yeah,
um, but I never fitted in. So I hung around with people. I never had real best friends or anything like that.
yeah,
You know, so and I was oh god, from in primary school upwards, really. I'm mixed race, so back in the day, I'm 53 now. Back in those days, in the UK, it was a lot whiter, so I looked a lot darker. So I had a lot of racism to deal with.
right,
So I got bullied a lot. So that was kind of like my thing I was dealing with at the time,
yeah,
and I just found everything was like say internalized. I knew there was issues. I knew, but I just thought it was normal. But as the saying goes, as people say, you know, you should try harder. You're useless. You're not good enough, all that kind of stuff. You know, why can't I do my homework? Why can't I listen? And I was never the person. I say I was sitting at the back of the class looking out the window, whatever, but I wasn't looking out the window. I was looking at the teacher,
yeah,
trying so hard to understand what they're saying, and I'm like, I have no idea. I'm trying to focus on what you're saying, and it's like, so then you should look over at the people next to me, trying to see what they're writing, so I can try and understand what the topic is we're talking about.
yeah. Well,
You know, but there was never. Sorry.
so I was just going to say, did you find that certain teachers had a way of, like certain lessons, certain teachers had a way of getting that message across a lot better to us, and then it felt easier, or was it kind of with every subject, or
It's with every subject until I was 16. Yeah. And as I got older, the bullying got a lot more physical, and so I wanted to join the gym just to get bigger, fight back,
yeah,
and all the rest. So I joined the gym, and for whatever reason, I kind of the information, all the stuff about anatomy, physiology, and everything, it all kind of stuck in my head. I'm
right,
like, how am I remembering this? I can't remember that person's name, which is Ian, but I can remember, you know, all these long Latin and Greek names for muscles and everything. I'm like, oh, this, okay. So I stuck I stuck to the old uh, fitness side things for like 28 years because it's the one thing I actually knew.
Yeah.
So that was a weird one for me because I still don't really understand why.
So
Yes, I
passion.
enjoyed it. Yeah, I was, but I'm very passionate. I'm a photographer. I'm very passionate about photography. But can I read a photography book?
Right.
No. So it's just playing with the camera instead. But yeah, so that's probably the only topic that has really sunk um, in my head until I got sort of diagnosed on the journey of all this. So now sort of like ADHD is coming all at me now, and I'm so. But medication does help with that.
Yeah. No, it can do. It really can. And it's funny how you said that. But I can relate massively to it. However, there were certain lessons at school for me. If I found that teacher quite inspiring, or the subject that they were talking about at the time quite inspiring, I'd be all in. I'd
Yeah,
really they'd hook me in somehow. But a lot of the time, I was like you. I was sitting back, seeing what everybody else was writing, because whatever they were saying at the front of the class as a teacher was a foreign language to me. And that's one of the things I really found difficult at school. And it's just hard to. When we spoke about earlier about looking back and with hindsight and things like that, and the grief process, and that's where the frustration comes from me. See, I would have loved to have understood what I kind of know now about ADHD back then, because that's when I think it would have made a big difference.
yeah,
But obviously, we can't look back. We can look back, we can make peace with it, but we can't change what it was. It just, we've just got to accept it, really. Um,
yeah,
but that's
yeah.
one of the hard things for me that I still look back at quite regularly, to be honest.
Yeah. I kind of hold on to the knowledge that it wasn't an official diagnosis for kids in the UK until 2000 and adults until 2009, I think it was.
Yeah,
So it's like, well, it wasn't a diagnosis when I was at school.
yeah,
So it wasn't that I was missed by the doctors and things like that at all, because it just wasn't a subject or topic that anyone kind of like really knew much about in terms of who we dealt with,
yeah,
teachers and parents and stuff like that. So I kind of like, okay, well, that's okay. I can deal with that. It'll be worse if I thought actually they should have picked it up and they should have helped me when I asked for help. You know,
yeah.
um,
And
but
I think that's what we've got to hope is kind of happening nowadays. I mean, it's still being missed a hell of a lot.
yeah,
Even the awareness, the growth of ADHD and neurodiversity and ASD, and it is growing day by day. But it's still being missed a lot, and that's where changes need to kick in, really. Because I'd hate to see. Like what you've just said, it wasn't a thing back then for us, but it is a thing now. And now, obviously, we can make these changes, and it's just got to be spotted and just got to be picked up. And I don't know how exactly the teachers become more aware, other than training and learning more about it. But even teachers today still struggle to get their heads around it. You know, they don't believe in it. A lot of people don't believe it's true.
yeah.
And this is one of the frustrating things for me. And I find it hard to. I just don't want people to go through the same thing like the likes of what we have. I think when you've got this knowledge, use it and make a difference, because it will make a massive difference to these kids.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. There's no excuse for it to be missed anymore.
No.
Not just ADHD, but any of the sort of neurodiversities. I had a podcast the other week with Sarah Templeton, and we're talking about ADHD in prisons,
Yeah.
basically. And the things she was saying and that she's seen in it is just horrific. The numbers is just crazy. And she's saying that you can start grassroots. You can just start every year, beginning of the year at school, every first day back in September, no one does any work. Why don't they just sit down and do the pre-assessments for all the neurodiverse conditions? Don't take long.
No.
It's like 5 minutes to do my ADHD one. It's not long at all. So why don't they just do that, and they can start catching things at the very beginning? I mean, at the moment, she said that the school, talking to teachers, and the the teachers in their training literally do like around 3 hours to do all neurodiversity, which is nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I do find a lot of it is attitude.
Hugely.
Yeah.
I'm with you 100% on that. They don't want to know.
Yeah.
They don't want change. They're quite set in the ways and traditional ways of looking at things, and they don't like to learn new things. I'm with you on that 100%. And I think that's from a government perspective where it's got to change. It's got to be fought, because there's a lot more out there, a lot more of us out there than what I think they believe there is. And it's like you said about the prisons as well. 65 to 85% is probably the reality. A lot of these people haven't been seen. They don't understand when they were younger, and as a result, they're very impulsive. They don't fit the mold of the 9 to 5 kind of life, and they don't fit the mold of society. So they veer down a different pathway, and obviously that's what leads them to where they end up, inside. And it's a shame, but I think it's hard to change people's, I don't know, not people's mentality when they're older. We've got an opportunity, or the government's got an opportunity, to pull the finger out their ass and actually make some difference in the grassroots level. And I think that's where it's got to start. So
Yeah.
Whether or not they will, I know I've heard, was it yesterday that it might have been this morning on doing the school run, that the government putting some more money into mental health and children's, special educational needs maybe. But it's not enough, just throwing a bit of money at it's not going to make a difference to it, really. You've got to, make it part and parcel of life, and understand that the teachers have got to get on board with it. There are some great teachers out there, but there's also some very ignorant, set in their ways teachers and I know I'll upset people by saying this, but you've got to adapt, you've got to evolve, otherwise you just get stuck, and people will surpass you. And I don't want to see it happen to kids,
No, it's not. Yeah, no, there isn't at all. And it's, we've had our journey, and we've had our fight to get support and everything. And just one of the, even going through the the Department of Education's SEND Code of Practice.
Yeah.
It says, listen to the parents, make decision with the parents know the children best. It says that.
Yeah.
But the teachers that I've dealt with, the head teachers, and think, no, they, and it's still the whole parent blame and the child blame, and it's like, oh, come on, we're better than that now.
They don't want to see it, and it frustrates me. My sister's gone through a lot of it with her 3 kids, and the schools can't look after the kids properly. They can't do what they need to do, even though they've got the specialist funding for it as well now. You get a teaching aid or a specialist teacher that helps them out as well, but they get then spread across the class, as opposed to working individually with the student themselves. And again, they're trying to tell you, no, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. No, we know our children really well. We've made them. It's not as if we've not spent every hour near enough God sends to be with them, and you're trying to tell me that it's something else. Well, no, probably open your eyes a little bit and see it for what it is, and they don't, and it's hard, and it's a real struggle to try and overcome this mentality, or this negative mentality towards it. And I think That's what's got to change. And how it changes, I don't know at the moment, without, creating a neurodiverse kind of political party of some sort, or, really pushing it in a way where it becomes part and parcel of society in this modern day.
Maybe.
Maybe. But,
I'd vote for you.
yes. Nice to have a view too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, where with the post that you put out, where do you get your inspiration from? I mean, it's obviously in the post that you're very, very passionate of what you're saying, every word you're saying. So, how do you get that drive?
So one of the big drivers for me, and it lent itself to where HeadNooks originated from. So HeadNooks was originally set up as an idea for a business, and it came on the back of my personal experience. So I'd obviously gone through sobriety, or was going through sobriety at the time, and ADHD. I'd then split up with my partner of 11 years. I'd lost 2 businesses on the back of COVID, and I was in a very dark place. And I kind of wanted, obviously, from what I'd read and not necessarily what I'd read, what I'd seen, should I say, on YouTube, because I don't really read much, is that the medication can make such a big impact and a big difference. And it didn't for me. I remember titrating on the different stimulants. I also chopped and changed different antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, SSRIs, SNRIs, with different stimulants to try and get some form of balance from a medication side. And it came, I think it was about 12, maybe even 14 months of titrating. And it came to the end of it, and we kind of made the decision that it wasn't for me. But then that was it. I was left to my own devices. I had my world turned completely upside down. I'd had this newfound knowledge of what ADHD was, but I didn't know how to deal with life after that, post diagnosis. And it made me feel that I was very much alienated, because I'd had to take myself away from social circles as well, because all my pals were drinkers and liked to go to the pub and things. And I remember speaking to a therapist at the time, who's become a really good friend, and obviously wanted to be part of HeadNooks, which, again, the business will evolve eventually. And I said, I don't want anybody to feel like this again. I wouldn't want anybody to go through what I've gone through. And a lot of that kind of feeling came out in me. And when I was in rehab, it was the first time I kind of opened up in a group environment. I'd always wanted therapy one-to-one because I was quite a closed book. But when I went into rehab and I heard other people's stories and other people sharing, it was the first time in my life where I actually felt that I wasn't alone in what I was going through.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, HeadNooks was kind of born, and it was to help people, in the aftercare of ADHD and sobriety. Now, I felt personally, because I wasn't qualified or anything like that, I could only talk about my personal experiences. But I also believe, from a business perspective, that if we are going to create a business and we've got clinical kind of specialists at the head of it, and even though it's my idea, I thought I wasn't bringing enough to the table.
Yeah.
So I said, the best thing I can do, excuse me, is build an audience, a captive audience of people that are either going through this or too scared to talk about it, or, whatever the case may be. And that's kind of what started me on the social media side. So a lot of inspiration came from my personal experience and what I've gone through. And selfishly, I kind of use the channel for self-therapy, because it allows me to get off my chest what I'm thinking and what I'm going through. And I hope in turn it helps other people. But I will also pull inspiration from others that are creating content as well, because whatever they've said that I can relate to, I'll then put my twist on it and how it affects me a lot of the time. So it's a mixture of both, really. And it's, and for me, it's, I like doing it because I don't know whether you're the same, but it's nice to help people. You know, I wouldn't want people to feel like I felt.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope that by saying what I'm saying, it helps people overcome some issues that they might be going through, or to make sense of certain things. I try to make it as thought provoking as possible, so it's not like I'm lecturing people or telling people. You know, I want them to think for themselves, because at the end of the day, we're all different. There's no one size fits all solution for ADHD. You know, we've got to just find a way, and there's no cure or no fix, but we've got to find a way of managing it the best we can for ourselves. And I think that's where a lot of the content kind of stems from, to try and help people as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, that's, again, I said before that, if I can just help one person, then it's job done for me.
Yeah.
Like you, this is therapy for me. I started this off just doing an audio one, just so I can just talk about it all. Because previously I've never had a voice.
Yeah.
I struggle I struggle to put a sentence together. I have issues with forgetting words, and there's a lot of pauses most of the time in my conversations when I'm just like, saying things off the top of my head. I've got stuff up here on this side with stuff written down. I've got stuff here. I've got stuff on my phone here and on here, just to help prompt me with words and phrases. And I have to do that because otherwise I do get really sort of stuck. And so I don't talk that much.
Mhm.
I don't have a big circle of friends anymore. I just keep it close. My wife, my family, son. That's it.
Yeah. Same.
and and then coming on here, I just found that having the diagnosis and everything, I've got a voice. I've
Yeah.
got answers to why I am the way I am, and I've cut myself a lot of slack. And it's like, yeah, I can talk about this, and I want to talk about this,
Yeah.
and that's why I do it. But then speaking to people on here, it's like, okay, yeah, they're enjoying it as well, and they're getting something out of it, and they can tell their story, and that's what I want. And I've always said to the guests who I've had on, who are not I guess like yourself, content creators or anything like that, just your people who listen to the content creators, I guess, who are spoken to on, be it of Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, whatever,
Mhm.
just the average Joe blogs, I guess. I like having them come on and giving them a platform so they can have a voice,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we usually talk about one sort of subject at a time, kind of thing. Someone come on and we'll talk about medication, or we'll talk about getting assessed, or we'll talk about, something, one little bit of the journey. Um, and it helps me, it teaches me a lot. I've learned a lot from doing it. And like I say, it's just really good therapy for me.
It is, and it's nice. You what you've just said, I can relate to massively, because when you pull yourself out of your social circles, so you haven't got these big friend circles of people that you used to socialize and spend time with and mask in front of, you do feel incredibly on your own and alienated from everybody. And it's a lonely existence, because you're on a different journey now to what they are. And you don't want to be ridiculed or anything like that. And we have all this kind of fear of um, probably explaining how we truly feel in front of them. But when you have got a platform like TikTok or whatever the other social media platforms may be, you kind of speaking, due to the algorithm, you're speaking to your kind of tribe, so
Yeah.
you get so much more support from people that are complete strangers, which is
Yeah.
incredibly powerful, because they'll support you more than some of your family members will, because your family members won't understand it or won't want to learn about it, or your partners won't want, or ex-partners won't want to learn about it. But there's people that you've never met that will send you a comment or send you a message that it just fills your heart, and you just think, oh, bloody hell, that's amazing, And to me, for somebody who hated social media before before I started TikTok, I really quite love, and I love the likes of TikTok more than I do the other ones, because I, I remember deleting Facebook several years ago because I couldn't stand the fakeness. People putting up their fake lives. Oh, look at me doing this, look at me doing that, and in reality, they're probably arguing and on the verge of divorce and various things like that. But on the face of it, they're living this perfect life. And I just thought, well, that's a load of bollocks, really. But the beauty of what I found with TikTok is it gives you your tribe of people to speak to, and it also gives them the ability to offload as well and get
Yeah.
what's get off their chest what's going on. And I think that's something quite special, and it's nice to be able to do that, especially when you do feel quite lonely, when you've pulled yourself away from everything. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's
And
really good.
I find it's nice as well to be able to talk to someone who, like I say, who gets it, but also has the patience with me. I'm thinking of myself here because of how I talk, and I can be very broken. I can be very quite slow. I'm not usually I guess, your stereotypical ADHD talker,
Yeah,
where you've got, your speed talking and you're very clear with your words and it's all coming out nicely. And it's like, I can't do that. Maybe a sentence every now and again, but I need my prompts. I need the wording because I'm going to get stuck. So have someone that I know is going to, although they probably don't go through what I'm going through at that time, they get it.
yeah, yeah,
They're still engaged. They're okay. And it's like, we are ADHD. You are
yeah.
going to interrupt me. I'm going to interrupt you. We're going to go off. We've had some other conversations with ourselves during this
Oh, yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
So I get it. And, there's going to be times where, you're going to be sitting there going, oh my God, will you shut up? But it's like, but it is what it is. And it feels like we're all in the same boat and we all understand automatically. We just get it.
yeah.
And it's so much easier to talk and be open with people who will automatically just get it. Even if they're not on exactly the same journey, they
Mm.
get it.
We're all singing, yeah, from the same hymn sheet, and I think that's it's a very powerful thing, because it makes you feel part of something, when all our life we've felt probably more left out than we have included, should I say. And
Yeah.
and that's I love it, I really do. And I like you, I struggle with getting out sentences, with getting the right words to come, but we all have these kind of traits, and I think the beauty of it is we all understand, and that again, it just allows us to come together, really. And I really do enjoy it. There's not many times when I think, oh God, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I really do kind of enjoy putting stuff out there, and getting you know the engagement from others.
Yeah. It's it, it's kind of, it's a strange one to explain to, I guess, neurotypical people, because people don't do it. What it means, what it really truly means. Um, I guess it's like university, generally speaking, it's trying to speak to people who don't fit that criteria, kind of
Yeah.
thing. They just won't get it at all. Which is a kind of shame, because it would be nice for you to teach people, and to really educate people, and kind of like how things could, how it's going in my head, or why do I have to keep moving around, or why do I have to keep on doing this?
I do think it's the stigma that's still there, and it's still, even though, like say, ADHD in adults has been kind of assessed since 2007 or 9, whenever it was, and in kids from 2000, it's still very much the early days. I mean, I'd like to see changes. I can't remember when it was, but probably about 15 years ago, when men's mental health was a taboo subject. And just look how that's changed now. and people look at it and they're not so. Men are happy to speak openly about how they feel and what they're going through, rather than being a closed book or going to the pub and drinking away their issues. And I'd like to see that kind of change come from a neurodiverse perspective. It will in time, And one of the things that we come up against is that the only people that do understand it are if they are neurodiverse themselves or they have kids that are neurodiverse. And once you learn that the genetics play a part and they then start trying to help their children, the penny drops and they think, "Holy shit, I could actually be neurodiverse myself, or I could actually have ADHD, or I show a lot of these traits." That's probably where they get it from. And it will take time to get to that stage where the stigma has disappeared. But at the moment, it's still there in a big way. But it'd just be nice to see it buggered off and for people to be open and understanding about it a lot more. But only time will tell on that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the next generation is going to, I guess, reap the rewards of it. It's going to miss us. I guess we're starting it. We're pushing it. I mean, it's talking a lot more about neurodiversity now than, I guess, mental health and things like that, sort of 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But at least there's a lot of talk about it now. But yeah, I think it's going to be the next generation who are going to see it come through.
And I hope it does make a change. That's what all we can hope. We can only adapt ourselves with the information we've got now, but changing something like this, if we can change it for the next generation, the generation after that, well, we've done great, by putting out and getting the message out there.
Yeah.
And we've started something that, people think it's a bit of a trend at the moment, but trust me, there's nothing fun about it. It's nothing but a chuffing battle that we have to face every day. And if it will change in the next 10, 15 years or more, perfect. It can't come soon enough.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I don't get the people now that are still kind of, it's not real. It's a trend and whatever, it's misdiagnosed and things. I'm like,
behavior and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just like, wait, you go to a doctor and within 5-10 minutes, the doctor can diagnose you with a multitude of things, and it's okay. That's all good. That's all good. But with this, they can't because they're not qualified enough to do it. And then it takes weeks and months and everything going, to put everything together, all the information together. And then you're going to go for a 1, 2, 3, 4 hour session with the clinicians and go through it all. And then you get a donor. That's a lot of effort and information and people involved to get the diagnosis. How can you just, I don't believe that. But you can leave what your doctor said because they spoke to you for 5 minutes. It's like, why? It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I had it with. I remember a time when I was listening to an audio book about ADHD, and whatever this person was saying on this book made so much sense to me because it just described me and it put into words how I felt or the troubles that I was going through. And I remember wanting to play it to my now ex at the time, and she wasn't interested in listening to it because she didn't believe that ADHD was a thing. She just thought it was a label and an excuse and things like that. And that to me really showed me how people's perception of this is going to be and the kind of uphill struggle that we're going to face by trying to bring some form of normality to it all, because people's perception is just completely different to what the reality is. And it's horrible. To this day, I still get a lot of negative stuff said on in the comments section. The beauty of TikTok is I can't be asked to fight with people and argue the point. If they're going to be pig-headed and ignorant, you can you're blocked. I haven't got time for you. You're not going to affect my my mental state, my journey, and I hope you're not going to affect, other people's as well that are trying to take the positives from this. If they come and ask the questions about certain things, I'm happy to engage with them and talk to them. But the people that are there just to stir the crap up, really. You can sort them all off, and I just haven't got the time or the patience for it anymore. Whereas in my younger days, I probably want to fight and to try and say, well, this is the reality, blah blah blah. No, whatever. You get thick skin, don't you? Once you've been on social media for a little bit.
Yeah, no,
You get used to
absolutely.
it.
All right, mate. It's been great having you on. It's been really, really nice to talk to you, and I think it's been interesting to find out, I guess, your background, where you're coming from. I mean, you put some outstanding stuff out there. So it's nice just to have a little chat with you, really, to be fair.
It's been great. I've really enjoyed it, and I'd like to do it again. I'm envious because I've been trying to think about doing a podcast for God knows how long, and I just can't seem to get over the mental block about it. So when I finally do get to that stage, if I do, I'd love to have you on as a guest in return as well. But
Oh,
for
absolutely.
me, I just can't seem to get past that hurdle of how to edit them, how to put them out there, or all that kind of stuff. Even though people have tried to explain it to me, it's like somebody needs to come and sit next to me and show me, and then I can learn. But until then, I'll just keep putting TikToks out.
No worries. I mean, I'll absolutely come onto your podcast if you get that up and running. And I'd love to have you back as well, and maybe sort of talk about some specific subjects. You kind of normally do. So, but thank you again, and thanks everyone for listening. And as always, people, be good, be kind, and remember, you're not alone. Thank you.